Believe it or not, this is the end of our study of language families. I can hear the cheering in the background. I know, I get it. But at the same time, keep in mind that human beings hold the language they speak very close to their personhood and their culture. This is the reason we have to look at it in some level of detail. Let's start with the Afro-Asiatic family of languages. Take a look at our language family trees. You can see that I circled the Afro-Asiatic family tree. And these are the languages, mostly, of the Middle East and North Africa. You can see the Afro-Asiatic branches here on this map. These are descended from several proto-languages going back 10,000 years ago or more, including some very famous things like Sumerian and Babylonian and probably Phoenician. Aramaic is tied to this. Again, take a look at the language family tree for Afro-Asiatic. And keep in mind that Arabic and Hebrew, the two I want you to know, both come out of this particular language family. These are critically important because, at the very least, of religion. What about the rest of Africa, though? Well, the rest of Africa is overwhelmingly found housed within the Niger-Congo, also known as Niger, but the real word for this is Niger-Congo family of languages, and the Nilo-Saharan family of languages. Africa, especially sub-Saharan Africa, is the most complex linguistic landscape on this planet. 95% of the people in sub-Saharan Africa means Africa south of the Sahara Desert, speak one of the languages of the Niger-Congo family. Perhaps the most important, now I'm saying perhaps, okay, is Swahili. Swahili is only spoken natively by something a little bit less than 1 million people, but in Eastern Africa, there are around 30 million people who speak this language as a second language. As a result of that, Swahili operates as the lingua franca of East Africa. In other words, the common language, the language of business, the language of government, the language of commerce. All of these things are all wrapped up in this one language, which means that if you were going to learn one single African language, this is probably the one to learn because it's most usable, particularly in Eastern Africa. Take a look at this map. You can see that I've circled the area where the Niger-Congo family is located. The other major family in sub-Saharan Africa is the Nilo-Saharan family of languages. It's not the only one. There's one more, but I want you to see that this is the other major one. This is found in North Central Africa. So you can see the Nilo-Saharan branches. And you can see I circled where the Nilo-Saharan family is located. And notice that it is sub-Saharan Africa. The Sahara Desert is up here. Sub-Saharan means south of the Sahara Desert. The other major family, so the third of the families that we find in sub-Saharan Africa, is the Khoisan family of languages. These are found in southern Africa, and they're known because of this clicking sound that they make when they speak. It goes like this. It's something that lots of people do, but these are the only languages that have actually incorporated that sound into the spoken sound of their language. And you can see that these are down here highlighted in the green that I just circled. How about the indigenous languages of the Americas? Well, many of these were obliterated, of course, during the colonial era beginning in 1492 when Columbus sails the ocean blue. And then afterwards, along with the people who spoke them, as we know, this kind of very sad history of what happened in the Americas. What happens to the wisdom built up by a group of people without a literary tradition, as most of the languages in the Americas did not have a literary tradition? They only had an oral tradition. When those people and their languages are gone, well, their wisdom goes with them, unfortunately. This is the Amerindian family of languages. Like Africa, the Americas had, and to some extent still have, a stunningly complex linguistic landscape of these Amerindian family of languages. There were once hundreds, if not thousands, of languages and dialects on the two American continents. Most people spoke multiple languages because there were so many languages, very much like Africa. In fact, I had an ancestor who was on the Lewis and Clark expedition, and he spoke French, English, and he could speak several Indian languages. But in addition to that, and I'm saying Indian, remember, I mean indigenous, but the term crosses over. He also spoke what was known as the Plains Indians Sign Language. And this is a way these people who spoke multiple languages, but at the same time could not always communicate with each other because there were so many languages, it was such a complex linguistic landscape, that they developed over time a sign language that they could use to speak with each other. And my ancestor happened to speak that Plains Indian Sign Language, and as a result of that, he ended up on the Lewis and Clark expedition. But this is how the indigenous peoples would speak to each other in the plain states of the United States when they didn't speak the same language. They used this naturally evolved, kind of organically evolved Plains Indian Sign Language. These are the indigenous languages of North America. Okay? It's a very complex landscape. The North American Amerindian indigenous languages that I want you to know, though, are these three. Navajo, which of course is famous for the code speakers during World War II, Sioux, which is found mostly in the center part of the country, and Iroquois, which is found in the eastern part of the country. These are the Mesoamerican indigenous landscape. So take a look at that. These are the languages of Mesoamerica, which means Central America and Mexico. And what I really want you to know about the Mesoamerican Amerindian indigenous languages is this particular branch, the Uto-Aztecan branch. You could see what language was going to be included in this. But keep this in mind, this particular branch went all the way up into California. It wasn't just in Mexico, it stretched all the way up into California. And probably the most important one, at least for us right now, and the one I want you to know is Nahuatl, which was the language of the Aztecs. Then these are the South American indigenous languages. I'm stumbling over that. I don't know why. You can hear me stumbling. I don't know. Maybe it's the light in the room I'm in. And you can see it continues on. South America is a big place, and there were a lot of languages there, and still are a lot of languages there from the indigenous people. With regard to the South American Amerindian indigenous languages, these are the three I want you to know. Quechua. Do you know who spoke Quechua and still speaks it? 20% of the population in Peru speak Quechua as their first language. That would be the Inca, exactly. And Arawak and Carib, which were spoken out on the Caribbean islands, but also were spoken in South America. All right, we made it through. How do you like that?